All right, so we move on to the second part of our discussion. What is the perception of Obama in Europe? Okay.
No, I think we have to put it into the context, and we all know that under the Bush administration has been a tremendous erosion of trust and reputation of the U.S. in Europe. So the United States, supposedly a beacon of freedom and progress, became associated with the Iraq War, with Guantanamo, with lots of problematic things from a European perspective. And coming in, of course, Obama hits all the right buttons. He's young, he's dynamic, he's educated, he has a discourse, a positive discourse of bringing back the U.S. as a positive force of change. And he, of course, brings back memories in Europe of the young John F. Kennedy and his progressive agenda. So there's lots of things that sort of go into the direction of recreating a very positive image of the United States in Europe, and that is certainly a great contribution that Obama has already given to the United States. And just remember, when he came, still a candidate, to Berlin, there were 200,000 people, the greatest mass rally that no European or German politician, for that matter, could muster, greeting Obama as potential president in Europe. So I think that already was a strong indicator of how he can shift very much the image of the United States, which at the end of the Bush administration is really in shadows, to a much more positive one.
I think the interesting thing that some people are starting to worry about now, and I wonder how much Europeans worry about that, is really the backlash of the heightened perception. Because I think with that heightened perception also comes the taking of responsibility of European leaders, because Obama has already made it clear that he wants to be someone who inspires, but who also will ask other people to take responsibility. So I'm thinking about the European reluctance to send, especially the German discussion, to send more troops to Afghanistan. So there are a whole bunch of issues where I expect Obama to to ask other world leaders to take responsibility, and the question is, will other leaders take up his challenge of participating more in world governance? And that's a particular question for Europe, I think, because Europeans have always been wanting to follow the U.S. lead, but are they willing to now step up to the plate? The German government in particular has stepped up to the plate together with other Europeans now in bailing out some of the auto companies, so they've already done some of that, and since that's connected to U.S. policy in the future, that will be an interesting one to watch. But I guess I'm worried about heightened perception and someone falling, and where will this person fall short first, and how will the dynamics at the international level then shift? Yeah. I would like Obama to succeed, but where will this go?
I think he has enormous legitimacy that he brings to the table, and it's going to take some time for that to be used up. I mean, also coming back to this kind of broader social and cultural legitimacy that he can bring to Europeans is essentially to say, here's someone who's not only this progressive force of change, but who's also addressed the original sin of the United States, slavery and racial discrimination. So he seems to transcend this. So I think it'll be a while, and looking at how he's taking on the transition, it's all very smooth, it's all very smart, and so far he hasn't misstepped. So I think he has still a lot of capital to draw on with globally, not only with the Europeans.
No, that's absolutely true. One thing to keep in mind, anybody but Bush would have some of that, and it's unclear to me at least how much Obama himself is responsible for this goodwill and good feeling, because anybody but Bush would be better, right? So a lot of Obama's message is about rebuilding alliances and renewing contacts and such, and that's all positive until you get down to details, as Dagmar was saying. Right? Once you get into details, when the U.S. president, whoever the U.S. president is, and so when President Obama says, you need to contribute more here, and we expect you to do this there, and wouldn't it be nice if we could cooperate on this, which means resources that you have to pay, then maybe things are going to get a little trickier. Yeah.
But the interesting question, of course, is that individuals on the ground are so mobilized. And I think that's really interesting because Europe also has this big discussion around the democratic legitimacy gap. And I think that's where Obama really fills a gap himself, because he's mobilized people on the ground and he's made people connected with politics at a higher level. And I think that has trickled down to European citizens. But the question is, can European leaders really pick up on that and have some of that rub off on themselves? And I think that's a really interesting question that will be interesting to watch for us.
Just a small anecdote on that, if I can. Berlusconi right, the Italian leader, after the election, there was almost as much coverage of his comment, right? Berlusconi's comments in Russia said, well, Obama is great for you, Mr. Medvedev, because like you, he's young, handsome, and suntanned. Which, so some leaders may be more able than others to capitalize on this goodwill.
I think, I think more seriously, I think Obama is a real challenge to politicians in Europe because they're confronted with a cynicism, and they're so unpopular, essentially, with the electorate. And here comes a young, dynamic leader that, has built up so much support, grassroots support. And no European politician has ever done what Obama has done in terms of building up this support bottom up. And that's a huge challenge. I mean, it questions the legitimacy of European leaders.